rocking and or rolling?
Yeah, one of those.
Sweet.
Welcome, good sir.
Thanks.
You guys don't know, we know each other already. So.
I don't know you yet, though.
Yeah,
Hi.
so why don't you tell them about your troubled past?
Oh, Jesus. Well, it all started when I was in juvie,
Yeah.
and I don't know where that came from. How much of my past do we want to dive into?
Let's go kind of out of your education career and into, like, kind of start there.
Cool.
Getting into your job.
Yeah. I left university and went straight into working on cruise ships, mostly because they'll hire anyone. They're so desperate for people. So if you want a job really quickly that will be like, hey, here's experience, work on a cruise ship. It's really long hours and the pay is not great. But boy, can you say you've done it.
It's a job to have.
It is a job to have. But you have no expenses when you're there. So not having a huge pay it doesn't really matter because you don't have to pay rent or food. And you get to live in the Bahamas or Europe or something for 6 months. Not terrible. So that's what I did right out of uni. My contract ended 4 days before the pandemic started. So I was really lucky that I did not get trapped on a boat. I'll skip over some stuff that happened in the pandemic because that was just me working at coffee shops and going to therapy. I did actually become a producer accidentally for a comedy show in Vancouver where I grew up, just because they were trying to figure out some sort of COVID compliant show. And they were like, well, we have zero budget, so we need one person to run lights and video and produce the show and do all that. And I went, I'm bored. So I took one of those. Once again, pay wasn't great, but it was during the pandemic, so who cares? And I got a producer credit, so that's fun. Out of that, I moved to Nashville from Vancouver to work at MooTV, which is where I still currently work. Got a job opportunity to be a projectionist and camera operator for Jason Aldean. So that was my first tour. Basically, I emailed Katie at MooTV every month for 6 months in the beginning of 2021, being like, hey, you got any tours opening up? And she's like, nope, still a pandemic. And I went, all right. Did that for 6 months, and then eventually it was her going, actually, we have one. Can you get to Nashville in a week? Can you move here? And I went, nothing better to do. So I packed up my life in Vancouver and moved down here and started rehearsals the day after I landed. Worked with Jason Aldean from June 2021 till December, where I got swapped over to Lee Bryce as an engineer and camera operator. Did that for 2.5 years, loved that camp. Then moved up to my current position as video director with Alice Cooper, which has been an exciting change. It's a relatively small tour for how big of an artist he is, but it's international, which is kind of crazy. So I'm flying out today to go to Philly the international city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. But I just got back from Europe for doing a month there. So that's where we are now. Just faking my way through it by sending emails and getting lucky, basically. Which is a lot of this job, unfortunately, is just knowing people that can connect you to the next thing. So yeah, now I'm a video director, and we're going into rehearsals back in Nashville in September to prep for 2026. And that's as much information as I know, because they haven't told me anything. And that's also how this industry kind of works, is they'll 4 days before, they'll go, all right, here's the plans, and you figure it out.
Always surprise mode.
Yep. Even most days, every venue is different. Every local crew is different. All the gear that is, locally in a venue is different. So it's just kind of a lot of adapt, learn what you can, and try and remember it, and not just let it and go, that was just that day. Because it'll probably happen again, and most likely it'll happen worse. So, yeah.
So, obviously you're still traveling. We talked about that, about
Yep.
just kind of constantly moving.
Yeah.
With that move from education to play our own devil's advocate in
Yep.
school, I guess. Coming out of education, what for you, on the video side, just production in general, I guess, for the industry, what was your biggest, do you think, blind spots? Coming from or even not even just out of education, just getting in first, like getting your feet wet. What were things you kind of wish you were aware of?
You can only be so prepared for things to go wrong.
Yeah.
Because things go wrong in so many spectacular ways all the time, that just like knowing how to troubleshoot was like biggest thing. Luckily, the university I went to mimicked the hours a lot of the industry. So when my contract on the cruise ship was 75 hours a week. You're doing 11-hour days basically every day.
Good commute, though.
It kind of, yeah. Oh, my commute was, hit an elevator. It was awesome. But that sucks. A lot of the hours that I put in kind of suck. And there's no way to sugarcoat that. I'm going to be completely honest with you. We just did 2 festivals in Europe where it was a 21-hour day, followed by waking up early, getting on a flight, going to the next gig, and then doing another 21-hour day without having a bus or a room to hang out in. That sucks. And it's just kind of all right, well, I did my load in for this festival and it's noon, I had lunch. We don't go on until 11 p.m. and I have nowhere to go because we're in the middle of a field in a festival. Even if you're not working, you're still you don't have downtime. You're just there. And so it's either boring or you have long days of just you're working from load in to doors and then show and out. So I did a K-pop tour that I just filled in for. It was 3 days, but it was it was load in at 8 a.m. We're done loading at 6 p.m. Doors are at 6:15. I'm putting on a walk-in look at 6:15 as people are walking in, and babysitting time code because they have an hour of intro lighting looks just because why not? So I just have to stand at a console for an hour being all right, well, the show's starting, but if anything goes wrong, I have to reset this. It's just long days and a lot of long hours. So that would have been my biggest shock if the school I went to didn't also have 16-hour days and so on. So yeah, there's no way to sugarcoat it. Chances are you're going to have some long, miserable days.
Yeah. So when you you mentioned too on long days and venues, and I think anyone that's worked in the industry, especially live, right? So when we teach live here, obviously it's natural. It's saturated with live.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing when we go through the advanced live course that I try to prepare them for, or all of our live instructors try to prepare them for, are those disaster days. And because it is, you get a lot of people when you go into a structured learning environment that they expect to go, linearly. It's you do A well, you move on to B, and nothing, there's no chaos there in between.
Right.
Which is rarely the case, I would say.
No.
Maybe never the case anywhere. And I think the hard thing for students video, obviously I'm not a video guy, but
Right.
this would be exacerbated in video, is there's going to be times where you go to a new venue or whatever, and those things don't exist, or they're not going to cooperate in the way that you want, and that falling on your face becomes inevitable. And I think that's difficult for students to get their head around, especially when they first enter the field. Like the concept is fine, but then it happening is a different thing. So what would your advice, if any, be for that of like navigating once you enter that professional environment?
I mean, always go in with a backup plan. First off, you're always going to need plan A, B, and C. The tour I'm on currently, Alice Cooper, we don't travel often with like a big camera package. If a local venue has extra cameras and operators, we'll be like, cool, we'll use them. And then we get all of our gear set up in order, like within our brains, we're gonna be using those cameras. So I don't necessarily set up my robos or whatever. And then they go to plug in their cameras and they're like, oh yeah, we're running at like 720p and your system is all like 4K or 1080i or whatever. I'm like, oh, this just doesn't talk at all. So then the production manager is coming up to me being like, well, why aren't we using these cameras anymore? And I'm like, well, they're not even compatible. We can't, make them all work together. And unfortunately, the production manager doesn't necessarily know every single detail about video or audio or lighting, because it's just like more of an overall. So he's going, well, I gave you all these cameras. I expect to see all these cameras. And then you kind of have to break it, like to be like, well, physically this isn't going to work in our system. Or then you can go, well, this is plan B. We can go set up our other gear and we can do our normal show or whatever. But yeah, you always have to have kind of steps. And you kind of have to, I hate to say this, you kind of sometimes have to lower expectations of people that don't necessarily know your industry.
Yeah.
And because they're just going to see a bunch of cameras sitting on stage and they go, look at all these cameras we got today. Or yeah, maybe there's, I don't know how to even do it for audio, but maybe there's just like this giant gorgeous console and it's analog and they don't know the difference between analog and digital. And they're like, we can just tie this in really quickly to our system, right? And you're like, maybe not. I don't know how specific it is for audio, but there's always those little things that like other people will expect you to be able to do, and you'll give it a go. But sometimes it does come down to, I'm going to do this, and it is going to fail, and I'm going to show you that it failed for you to then be like, okay, do it how you said you were going to do it the first time.
Proof of failure.
Yeah, gets frustrating sometimes, but it happens, It's come in with multiple plans, explain why you have multiple plans, and go for it, It's really hard to explain just verbally other than just, yeah, do it and see what happens. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, well, go on to plan B, go on to plan C, or go back to plan A, that someone just threw a plan B at you and you have to make it work or not.
Yeah, I would say that's true too in the audio world. Like, there's always that honest ignorance coming from whether it's a venue owner or a manager or an artist or whatever. It can come from anywhere, but it's always you're never, especially if they have authority over you, right? In the situation.
I just thought of my audio example, actually. We just did a show in London right after Ozzy Osbourne died, where we're going to do a big tribute. It's going to be great. The original Alice Cooper band from like the 70s is flying out to London. They're going to be on stage with us. Johnny Depp is coming out. He's going to play guitar. And the audio guys are like, do we have a second console? Like, we don't have the inputs for an extra 6 people on stage. And they're like, well, like, it's fine. Like, they just expected you to do it. And they're like, it's just a guitar line. They expected us to actually put up 2 drum kits at one point. And we're like, first off, what space? Second off, we're already using all but 2 of our inputs. So it's like, we can get 2 guitars. Also, those guitars have to be wired because we don't have any wireless channels left. And they were fully just expecting us just to be like, get some more wireless packs in there. All these guys will have their own in-ear mixes. And it was just like, do we have a rehearsal day? Do we have another monitor tech? Do we have any of this stuff? And they're like, you're fine.
Yeah, make it happen.
Yeah, and let me tell you, it was a disaster. Find that video on YouTube. We all laughed about it for about 3 hours after that show was done. Because, yeah, People expected us to do a whole lot more than we were capable of.
Those are always interesting to me too, because they're, how do I say this nicely? They're well intentioned.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
They want to do something cool.
Yeah.
And it's always a bummer to be the wet blanket on the situation.
Yeah.
Right? Of being like what you're saying, like Johnny Depp's coming. It's like, does he have a guitar? But he's like, but it's Johnny Depp. It's like, but it's a guitar.
Yeah.
Like,
He also brought, like, everyone on that tour is on Kempers. He brought a physical, like a full rig for his specific tone. And then we were like, you're going to use this for half a song, and where are we putting it? You know, like, we have a set that moves. It's a theatrical show. We have set pieces that spin. We have, you know, like, people in costumes. We have a guillotine that comes out. And then it's like, also Johnny Depp brought his fucking 3-wide guitar amp. And you're just like, all right. Can it live outside and we can mic it? Like, what are we doing with this?
That's, like, when we talk about, you guys heard me talk about this, about your soft skills, of having to integrate that. So that's a really good example. If you're that manager, on any side, you're managing anyone, or even if you're just the artist, you're going to have to tell people no, and still try to navigate that with everyone involved. And it gets tricky because, people are excited. They want to do the thing, right? Like, that's an exciting thing.
It's very exciting.
And so it's never fun, like I said, being that wet blanket, like, well, we got to think about the technical aspects because people are going to get frustrated, naturally.
Yep.
And you always have to think of their perspective on it, of like, they're not trying to be mad, they are like trying to be irritable. They just wanted this thing to happen, and now they're realizing, oh, there's more to it because we are on, we're behind the curtain.
Yeah. Yeah. On that same show, they wanted, at the end of the show, it comes up with the Alice Cooper album that this tour is promoting. And he was like, oh, can we swap it out for like this new one that's coming out with the original Alice Cooper band? And in their minds, right, it's just put a thumb drive in, drag and drop. But it's like programmed into the show. Like, it has masked layers around it. So it's like, I can put it in there, but the lighting guy is the one that triggers it. So it has to go through his programming. And it's not as simple as just drag and drop. Also, if we replace media files, we have to step through the entire show to make sure this doesn't, knock something else out in lighting or video. And they came to us at, like, after doors. They didn't even have a thumb drive. They just said, I have this on my phone. Can we program this into the show? And it's just kind of just like, no? But it's like, it's Alice Cooper's management company. Like, how do I just be like, if you gave this to me yesterday and I had all day to do that, absolutely we could have done it. People are already here. Like, we can't, there's just nothing we can do about it. Luckily, that guy was very like, you're right, I should have given this to you any other time. And it was like, all right, he was nice. But yeah, the amount of times stuff like that is very last minute and happens. And people just don't know necessarily what goes into it. Yeah, you have to be able to say no, but not be a dick about it. That's also the big difference. You can be like, you can explain to them why no. Here's the step-by-step reason as to why we can't do this, and then maybe they'll understand it. But if you just say, I'm not doing that, like, that's a whole other thing, and then,
You also have the flip, kind of to contrast that, you also have the flip side where I've been around managers that will agree to things that, and this is like, in my opinion, the worst case scenario, is when you get a manager or someone with an authority position that will say yes to things that are going to cause disappointment, where they put you in a position, and that will happen.
Yes.
Where they'll say, yeah, we can do that, and they'll come to my leg. So we're doing this thing, and then you say that to me, and then I go, well, I already told him yes. It's like, well, then you've got to go tell him no again.
Yeah,
Those are uncomfortable.
I had an example, and now I'm wondering if I should even say it, if this is being broadcast. Never mind. There was a whole thing where we spent tens and tens of thousands of dollars on recording a show with prioritizing still the people in the audience rather than the record. Shocker, the record has not been released because it did not look good, because it was not designed for it to be recorded. It was still designed for the people in the audience. But we brought in a full video team, full lighting team, all of this with jibs and everything and crammed it into a small venue. I've never seen that footage. Don't know if it will even ever come out, because they were like, well, we can't change the show for the people in the
You
audience.
just have to take the L.
Yeah. And myself and the lighting guy were kind of explaining, like, well, X, Y, and Z is why we need to change things for the record. And they said, well, we don't want the people that paid the tickets are the most important. And we just said, okay, if you think they are the most important, we're not going to say no to that. We agree. They did spend their money to be here. So we will do our show exactly the same, while letting them know the record is not going to look as good. If it's still all flashing blue lights, that's going to look awful on a camera recording. It needs to be more white. It can't be as saturated. Things like that change for live or broadcast. And also, managers don't necessarily know that. They say, this show looks amazing on the stage. Let's record this and put it out. Yeah, it's not the same. We get we get feedback from the band, not necessarily on this tour. This is a universal thing. I'm not calling anyone out. Where they'll watch a YouTube video of the show from last night and go, man, this doesn't sound very good. This front of house guy kind of sucks. And it's like, well, that person's recording from an iPhone in the balcony. What can you do with that? If that's your basis for how well did the show sound, try and find a show that sounds really good from someone in the crowd holding up their iPhone. It's not going to happen, right? So it is kind of, it's just just expectations, keep them low. And sometimes people will come up to you with that, and you just have to calmly be like, aw, sweet band member, go play your strings and leave the tech stuff to the rest of us. Work your hour a day, and we'll do the rest.
So we've kind of touched base on the bigger stuff, right? Working in a bigger team, navigating those relationships. I think that's really important.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But also, most of you guys, if you do take interest in lighting and video, you're going to be starting small, right?
Yeah.
So they're going to be
Yes and no. So the thing I've found a lot about touring specifically is when you start, you're either going to be in a van tour, which those seem to be few and far between that actually tour with techs now. That just almost doesn't exist. Or you're going to be on a really big tour, and then just the bottom of a totem pole of 9 or 10 people above you. That can be like, all right, this is your one job. Go play around with, do your one projector thing, or you're going to be just putting these lights onto the truss, and then during the show you're not doing anything, or you're just there to hang everything up and cable it. And there's going to be so many other techs above you that are actually programming it and doing all that. So you'll start low, but on a big tour is what I have actually found to be the case for a lot of people that I've run into. So I am only coming from my own perspective. For myself, I started with Jason Aldean, so there was 8 video techs on that. And then I moved up and became an engineer on a tour with 2 video people. So I moved up in position but down on scale of tour, just because I'm more well-rounded at that point. And they go, well, we need a well-rounded person on this small tour because we don't have the budget to pay for 4 or 5 people. We need one person that can be the engineer, the cam op, and the LED tech. And I go, I hate myself. Sure, I'll do all that,
But I'm assuming when that happens and you do try to scale up after the fact, you're adding more value to you.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So my roles have progressively gotten better and better, and then not necessarily the tours have gotten better and better. Stepping up and moving to a smaller tour doesn't necessarily mean you're taking a step back. Also, in this world, taking a step back is not necessarily a step back, because you don't know what's coming next. Especially for freelancers, if someone comes up and they're like, oh, I do X, Y, and Z and I don't do anything else. Cool, are you fine working 3-4 months a year? Maybe. Maybe you're fine doing that and living at home, or not going out and doing anything because you don't have any money. And that's fine. But if you're willing and open to be like, oh, I do this, 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 this. If you need me for any of these positions, I'll do it. Great. So you just can't get in your own head about oh, well, on my last tour, I was the director, so that's what I'm going to do on my next tour. Maybe you're going to go on to some stadium tour that's massive, and they need 12 cam ops, and you're like, fuck it, I'll become a cam op for this next tour. Like, whatever. I would be so happy to go back to being a cam op and not have to send all my emails because I'm the crew chief right now. Oh my gosh. Take me a step back, please, for one more tour. Let me just become a front of house camera operator. Oh my gosh, I would love that.
I think you make a good point too, and I think sometimes you have to get to the position like crew chief to really appreciate how this works. But saying a step back is not necessarily a step back. I think, especially you guys in audio will see that a lot, where your progression as a professional will more oftentimes than not be nonlinear. So you will take a job that may seem like a step back, maybe in pay, in scale, in prestige, something like that. But now you're surrounded by crazy smart people, and there's value in that. There's certain areas where you can look. I tell you guys this a lot, but that's a really good example of a nonlinear progression offers different opportunities to you at different levels, at different scales, in different lineups. I'm assuming that would be similar to where you're coming from.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
The value is not necessarily always going to be in the pay, in the position, but also the work environment, obviously, like you said, and the scheduling and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I don't care if I'm getting paid a ton of money to be on a crew where everyone is pissed off all the time. You'll be burnt out in a week. And you're like, man, $5,000 just hit my paycheck from a weekend. That's awesome. And then you go to work and you want nothing more to leave. That's miserable. Don't ever do that. Yeah, like there were so many stories I've heard from, like, especially audio guys, because there are audio positions on tour that pay like insane amounts. The example I heard, which not a thing anymore, was Prince. Prince's front of house guy was also the monitor engineer, but doing it all from front of house. And he would last about 3 weeks. Because Prince would just be like, this dude fucking sucks. It's not exactly how I want, because he's doing so many things. But you're making 15 grand a week. That's an amount of money that I can't fathom. But you're going to get shit thrown at you. Is that worth it? Probably not. You could, I mean, maybe for you, you're like, I'll take some torture. I'll get screamed at every morning, day, and evening for that amount of money. Don't. Your mental health is so much more important, especially on tour. In these situations, like even if it's not on tour, in days where you're working from 9 a.m. to 2 a.m., your mental health is way more important than anything else.
Well, to piggyback on that too is the attraction there is the money.
Yeah.
Right? And
Oh, of course. If someone offered me that amount of money, I would be like, this is going to be the best time of my life.
that longevity, with it being 3 weeks, presuming you gave up a job to chase this job, you've now severed ties there. You're going into a 3-week endeavor where that's not going to be probably enough time to make any real connection with anybody. You may make that 50K or whatever. Maybe you can take a short vacation, but you're back at square one with this is what I mean when I say like skill value or professional value.
Yeah.
You haven't done that. You're going to say, oh, I was the engineer for Prince. What happened? Oh, I got fired. Oh, okay, well, whatever. Whereas instead, maybe you take a lower paying gig, like you said, like whether it's going on a smaller tour where you go into a smaller crew or whatever, but you were with Lee Bryce for
Just over 2 years, 2.5 years.
And that between that and Aldine, it's like you have where 2 years with an artist is significant.
Yes.
Like that's a significant amount of time.
Because those are people I can now call at any point. Like I have enough of a relationship with them that I'm just like, hey man, I like don't have a tour. If you hear of anything, just let me know. And they'll maybe one of their buddies will be like, oh, I'm just looking for someone. I don't know what this will come to, and they'll be like, I know a guy. I mean, this is not even tour related, but like a year and a half ago, I guess it wasn't quite that long. It was after I left Lee Bryce. I was going down to Australia for a show, and I was going to stay there. and someone was like giving me their car to use for like 10 days, and I'm like, this is awesome. What I didn't know is that it was a manual, and I haven't driven manual in like so long, and I was just able to call up one of the dudes on the tour that I knew had a manual car, and I'm like, hey, can I just like drive your car for like an afternoon just so I remember how to drive this? And he was like, oh yeah, sure. But it's just like actually building that connectivity. It's not even just for that. I'm not just saying for like getting a driver's lessons. I'm saying when you're that close to someone, you can ask them for like wild stuff, and they'll be like, oh yeah, cool. I'll help you out find a new tour. I'll keep you in the back of my mind if I know of something. And it's just like actually getting to know people is so important in this industry. And a lot of the times, this is even some advice that some of the guys on Lee Bryce told me when I told them I was leaving for this tour. I didn't want to. That's the best crew I've ever worked on, period. The Lee Bryce, the band, Lee Bryce himself, the crew, the best people I've ever worked for. And then when I told them I might be leaving, they were all like, yeah, of course. You've been out here for 2.5 years. Like, you're starting your industry. All these guys are like, we're going to retire on this tour. This was their end of their touring career. They're just like, we're just going to milk this for as long as we can. And they were shocked I lasted that long. They're like, get out of here. Go do it. And they told me, it's like, it's not even what you're doing next. It's like every second job is really what the one before is for. Because now I left Lee Bryce. I still have all those connections. I'm now on Alice Cooper. I now have all these connections. And I can leverage that to go do something else. So if I don't want to stay here, I mean, the dude's 77. I don't know how long I can be on that tour for. You know, like I can't put all my eggs in an 80-year-old basket. It's not going to. I love doing it. I'm happy that I'm out here, but I will have to leverage that for something else eventually. But now I have 2 tours that both will be like, hire this guy. You know, so it's all about connections.
Yeah, I think there's, for those connections you build too, there's something to be said when you said going in and working for a bigger crew and you're getting paid all this money, but they're all dicks. They suck to work for. Even, I've seen this just within Nashville, because Nashville's a very tight-knit community. Everybody in Nashville knows everybody in Nashville. When that happens, word gets around. When you even not just the people you're directly or even indirectly connected to, like a friend of a friend, it goes beyond that, especially in the Nashville community. So people will know if you're reliable, trustworthy, a good engineer, or will just go to bat for people, or just cool to work with. Just being a good hang is such a huge part.
That's 50% of it. I'm going to be honest. Like, we had, I'm not even going to say what tour or what position they were in, but we had someone that was an absolute dick to locals. And just one guy. The reputation of that tour was they're just all assholes. People wouldn't show up to the shift when they learned that was the band that they were doing. Like, local hands would just like not care. They're just like, we're just here for the money. We're not even going to really care. Because one guy that doesn't even work for that tour anymore gave an entire tour a reputation of everyone on that camp as an asshole. That's shocking to me, that one person has all that power. That I'm like, that's going to affect jobs for like, maybe someone's not even going to book you in a venue. Because they're just like, nah, our union guys won't work with you. Like, you don't want that reputation on you either. You know, because that's not, well, I'm talking on tour because that's specifically what I know. That was national. That wasn't just like, oh, people in Nashville don't like this guy. Every city that we went to, people are like, oh, that guy sucks. Like, that's impressive almost, you know? Like, do you want to be hated by every single local crew in a country? Because you can pretty quickly have that reputation. Because a lot of locals as well, they won't just work their city. They'll work the 3 around it as well. So you work that city, now all 4 of those cities think you're a dick. Like, don't be a dick, work hard, treat your local hands well. It's so simple. It's not like, we're not here to just break people's backs. It's crazy how many times just me saying, oh guys, we have a 5-minute break where I'm waiting for someone, go get water. And they're like, I don't have to stand here until you're done. I'm like, no, go be an adult, go smoke a cigarette, just be back in 5 minutes and I'll have the next thing. That has had hands request to come back to me, which is great. If you did the load in with me and you want to come back to me, you already know what we did today. So now I get you and I just say, hey, remember what we did today? Yeah, we're going to do that in reverse. My job is so much easier. If I'm like, oh, I saw you working. Yeah, you know what you're doing. Go wrap these 7 cables, the 7 we ran out today. Go do that. And they're like, cool, got it. If I'm a dick to that person, I've had people walk off. I've seen people just working with someone, they get yelled at and they go, all right, and then just leave. I'm not going to work with you. I'm getting, like, especially locals, they're like, I'm not necessarily making enough money to get put up with getting yelled at. It's not the Prince situation.
That's so, not to get into the Nashville culture, but there are places like that in Nashville that treat people poorly. And if you guys have had me early on, some of you did in 100, one of the first things I tell you is you don't have to work for dicks.
No.
Like, and there's no, that's not going to endanger your career. I really drive that home as much as I can, where it's like, you can work for good people, and people acknowledge that you're looking to work for good people, and that will happen. So that's a really good example of that, where it's like someone walks off. The natural reaction for us as engineers go, whoa, you just don't walk off. It's like, well, if dude said some shit that was uncalled for, you absolutely should.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally fine.
I've also gotten out of like miscommunications, just where people like, something got crossed, you know, there's so many things going on every day where things will go like get crossed and someone will like relay information to someone else and they'll just straight up be like, yeah, I don't think that's what's happening. Like, I know that guy. That's not, he wouldn't expect that of anyone else. And then like just stuff gets squashed so fast if you're just universally a good guy. There's not like, no one's talking shit behind your backs because someone else there that you're nice to will be like, yeah, that doesn't sound right. Just anything like that, and then, I don't know, it's just so much easier.
Yeah.
I can't, it's.
Yeah, you're right, it does make that veil really transparent.
Yeah.
People try, whether someone's doing it like maliciously or not, kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And it makes it completely irrelevant if you just go, yeah, probably not. And if that is true, there was a reason. Like, that's always one that I come back, it's like, if you piss, like, working with you, I'm like, if you pissed Ryley off,
Oh, you fucked up.
like, that's,
Yeah.
what?
It takes a lot to get me going. I got my Canadian politeness kind of just ingrained in me.
But like, I can think of other people I've worked for where I'm like, if they didn't like this person, that's a red flag to me. Like, on both sides. So like, I can think of a guy in my head right now where it's like, if he doesn't like somebody, I'm gonna go, ooh, he doesn't say that about a lot of people. And then vice versa, if someone's like, wow, I like that guy, I'm like, that's a red flag on the person making the accusation. Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't make any sense. Why?
Yeah. It is easy, but like I also do understand that it is frustrating to always put yourself in a positive light
Yes.
when you are working 16-hour days. And maybe it's hot outside, like if you're on outdoor tours or festivals and it's 98 degrees and on stage that's covered in all that black fabric, maybe it's 102, or you're in the back of a truck working on something and it's even hotter there. And you're trying to still be polite during all that when everyone is just over it. No one wants to be there. I don't care how much you love your job. If it's burning and everything you touch sets you on fire, you're gonna be mad. It's gonna happen. But if you're the one person that is still like cracking jokes and, you know, trying to keep the mood light, that goes so far. And people will remember you for that. And yes, you still have to be able to back it up with your work. If you're terrible at your job, but you're like the nicest guy, that's still good. You might not get as many jobs, but they're like, that guy is good to be around. If you're a dick, if you're awful and really good at your job, when you're living on a bus with 12 people and everyone hates you, everyone's gonna be talking to production being like, we gotta find someone else. I don't care how good they are at their job. We gotta find someone else.
So, working as an employee for Rhino Staging,
Yeah.
I have a similar situation just the other day where there was this, I don't know what position he hold, but he was one of the people that he was just directing like the pushers
Yep.
and where to put the equipment where to go. And basically he was screaming and telling me, I need this fucking box and all this, like he
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm like, I'm just gonna not be around him, and I'll just, you know, work around him,
I mean,
stay away from him,
the
and
quickest
just
thing you can,
continue to do my own. Like, I'm doing my work, but just I'm not gonna be around that person because he's just bringing out negativity, and like,
yeah.
it doesn't really go well with me. So I just really just stay away and continue my job.
Luckily, when you're working at a place like Rhino and you're a staging company, you have a steward there. You can go up to your steward and be like, hey man, this guy, like, you're gonna have to find me another department because I cannot work with him. You don't have to go, you don't have to start screaming to your steward about this guy, you don't have to do anything, but you can, in a polite way, just be like, man, this guy is just treating everyone horribly. Like, I can't work with him. And if you have a good steward, which, you know, hopefully you do, hopefully they can move you to another department. Or they can even go up to the guy. I mean, you should never go up to a guy as like a stagehand. I get the appeal. I've been there. I've worked with Rhino. But yeah, you have a steward to kind of be that buffer for you, and maybe they can approach someone. They have a lot more power. But yeah, I mean, just try and keep your head down and then talk to the steward if it gets really bad, and hopefully they can just move you to a different department. Because yeah, stage managers especially, they get so like, I found this in every case. It's 10 a.m. We're 40 minutes delayed, and they're like, this is panic mode now. And it's like, we still got all day. I don't know what you're screaming about. But it just happens. I don't know.
And I do have a question.
Yep.
I think it was last night. I was working at Nissan Stadium for the weekend,
Yep.
and it was like 2 a.m. and it started pouring like rain, like it was a rainstorm, and we just continued to work until there was like an announcement, and they told everybody to go inside because it was a storm. There was like lightning and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And I was looking around, and I seen like all these other equipment, like the lightings and stuff like that. I'm like, I was wondering if they're like waterproof or they have like some type of like.
For the most part, yes. If you're doing a stadium tour, there is some sort of waterproofing. When it becomes lightning is around, the waterproof of the equipment doesn't matter anymore. If it becomes a safety issue, why are we putting ourselves outside and like leave the gear there? It isn't alive, kind of, you know? Like, you're way more important than any piece of gear. It doesn't matter if you're a stagehand or like the top guy on a tour. If it becomes unsafe, don't do it. It's as simple as that. And if there's people telling you to do something, you still kind of have the power to be like, I got to check with someone because that does not seem right. There's been plenty of times where, I mean, I've had conversation with riggers where myself and the rigger are like, we need to get like an actual engineering plot of this because I don't know if this can hold the amount of weight that we have. And the production manager is assuring us, they're like, it's fine. You know, we got the drawings from them. We know where we are, like, it's all good. And if there's like the rigger and the video guy are both like, I don't know if we can hang off of that, and the production manager is going, it's fine, we're not gonna hang off that until we see a signed off plot from an engineer. Like, why are we gonna put ourselves or the band or anyone else in danger for a show? You know, like when you really break it down into that, it is kind of silly to put yourself in danger for some music. Music rocks. I love music. I love going to shows. I'm a metal guy. I love going and doing stupid shit in a mosh pit. But as soon as I'm like, all right, I might actually get like severely hurt or die or injured, or there's lightning and I'm climbing a video wall, I'm getting down and leaving. Like, I'm not, there's no point.
They also had me doing another task like where we were like all the way on top of this, like not the stadium, but it was like the people that that watch the show.
Yeah.
We were all the way up there, and like it was like really steep, and basically you had to like build a stage for the cameras or for the lighting.
Yeah.
Actually. So and like we were like on the edge, and I was like looking down. I was like, this is dangerous. And the one coworker, he just commented about we're risking our lives for the other for the person.
Yeah, I mean, we do put ourselves in dangerous positions. That is part of the job. But if it gets to a point where you're like, I actually don't know about this, don't do it. Like, there is some risk. Like, yeah, I've definitely done things where I'm like climbing up on something and, you know, there is some inherent risk. But yeah, if it does get to a point where you're like, why? This is like too far. I would personally suggest don't do it. Or tell them like, hey man, we got to find a better way.
I mean, I didn't really mind it because it was like I just did it for the experience, and plus it wasn't, you know, I had a little crew, I guess. With
Yeah.
it, so it was,
If you're feeling fine, then sure, go for it. Don't do stupid things, but like, you know, if someone tells you to climb up into a catwalk via the video wall onto a lighting truss and then get up there without a harness, don't. Even if you're like, this could be really fun, don't do that. You know, use some common sense. But yeah, like, if you're kind of close to an edge of something, you just have to be careful. You just have to, you know, people fall off stages all the time. That's something I've seen. You know, you do still have to have some sort of spatial awareness, especially during loadout. When it's fast-paced and everyone is just trying to, you know, get things done, there's a lot of mistakes that can happen, and people can get hurt. If you see something or someone doing something stupid, or someone suggests you do something stupid, don't. It's kind of that easy. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not the most exciting answer, but
I think too, like coming from your side of things, it's you're kind of forced to address the hierarchy that we talked about before, where like you're talking about the steward, where you do identify someone telling you to do something dangerous or stupid or not up to code or whatever. It's hard to make, I think, at times that decision in the moment too, because you're going to make that decision. You know it's the right decision. And the person with power on set that day is going probably to come down on you. That's probably what's going to happen. They're going to yell at you and say, I told you to do this, why the hell are you doing this thing, blah, blah, blah. And you may have to be like, oh, I'm just not, like,
yeah.
that gets a little bit sticky in the meantime, where I think you have to take Ryley's advice and be like, don't try to engage that.
Yeah, you just kind of have to be like, we just need to find a safer way to do it. Because I mean, any good production manager or steward, as soon as safety is brought up, they should kind of be like, okay, there's an issue. If you're saying that about like, man, this cable is really heavy, it's like, that's not safe to run, they're gonna be like, shut the fuck up, you know, like that's one thing. But if you're like, if they're watching you and you're standing on top of something like one-legged trying to hold on, you know, there's a time and a place.
Yeah. Yes. And that's it really is one of the times it's like, use common sense. Where it's like, does it seem off? It's probably off. Like, there's a decent chance that's true. Yes, anybody else? Yeah.
I had one, I was working for a production company, or a stage, I was a stagehand for a company. It was 50 Cent, Busta Rhymes. And I introduced myself to the engineers. Like, I was kind of nervous, like, I didn't know there was me or anything, but they kind of took a liking to me. Like, they saw I knew how to wrap a cable and kind of knew what I was talking about. So, Jeremy, he put me to work, 50's engineer, put me to work, like, hey man, grab the cable. But one of the big digital boards.
Yeah.
Like, wow, man, I didn't look up. So after that, he had me following around, stuff like that. But I was there under Ryan. I was there under a company. So PD, that was Buster's director. He saw I knew how to break down the turntable. He like, come with me. But the guys at Ryan who I was working for, like, hey man, you don't work for them, you work for me. I'm like, man, I'm working with Busta Rhymes engineer. I'm not here to load trucks all day. That's why I went to school. I like to work, but this was an opportunity for me to work with some well-known engineers and, do what I came to school to do. But when we came back to break down, Jeremy, like, as soon as I stepped into place, he came to me, hey, you go with me.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes, sir.
You have no idea how much wrapping a cable properly says about how you can do everything else. It is unreal the amount of times I will have like a local hand that I see wrapping a cable properly, and I will go up to them and say, at the loadout, you come straight to me. I'm snagging you before anyone else can. Like, because it's such a simple thing, but if you do know how to do that well, and it's the little details to things. If you go into a place and start working there for the first time, and you don't leave the area a mess, all the cables are coiled perfectly, everything is labeled properly, everything is better than when you got there, that is so important. Like, no matter what level you're at, if you're just tossing cables loose into a trunk and then just sitting on it to try and close it, that sucks for whoever's opening that trunk the next day. And they will curse you out, being like, that fucking guy yesterday really screwed my shit up. And it's such a basic, easy thing. And yeah, like you said, if you show that you know how to do the little things well, they'll trust you to do more big things. It's as easy as that. If you don't know how to do the little things, they're going to keep you doing the little things until you get it right. So the faster you can just get through that, the more opportunities you're going to have.
But what do you do when, so the guy, Rhino came, you know, when
Right.
50's incident, when he grabbed me, I started working with him. The guy from Rhino was like, hey, you don't work for me. So he was like, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, technically, yeah, you do work for Rhino. If they request you and your steward's like, cool, yeah, go for it, then that's great. I would have done the same thing. I would have also just stepped aside and been like, hey, he requested me, I'm gonna go work with him. So I can't fault that at all. If I have a chance to go do something else, I'm gonna 100% do that.
I think too, not to dog on Rhino at all, but if you're getting told by an artist when you're working for a company at the time, they say, hey, come help me. I would assume that means my guy's doing something right, to where they're providing help or whatever. So my kind of, not red flag, but a little yellow flag goes up. If someone's like, no, you don't work for them, you work for me. It's like, the goal is the same. Like, the show is the goal. The production should be the goal for everybody involved. So that to me kind of makes me pull back a little bit, like, oh, why are you trying to assert this when somebody that's heavily, one of the core artists in this is making a request, production based, and it's one of your guys, and presumably they have other guys, right? So if that's true, why would you resist that? That to me is where I agree with Ryley. Like, I would have done what you did, most likely, and I'm like, no, that doesn't track to me as much, and I think I personally think you did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody else got any questions?
I was going to wonder, in your experience, what is the more common and best way for just cold calling or networking, that kind of thing? Because my background is in film, specifically camera, grip, and lighting. I
Right.
went to National Film Institute, Georgia Film Academy, and Trilla Studios in Atlanta, and that kind of thing. And I'm interested in doing more work like what you're describing. So what's the best way I can connect with people like you?
There are LinkedIn, first of all, you can just reach out to anyone there. And if they accept you, great, you can just message them. It's so easy. Company websites, that's how I got involved with Moo. I just found the email on their website and then pestered them, like I said, for 6 months until they gave me a job. Like, I knew out of the pandemic they were desperate for people, so I kind of like had that going for me. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things you can find online. Emails, I tend to like find the best way, rather than like trying to actually get someone's phone number and call them personally, because then it's more like, hey, you have time to respond. This isn't like an urgent thing. Yeah, I don't know. Most of the networking I do at this point is because from other people that I've met on tour. So it is kind of one of those things where it's like, well, the best way to do it is to do it, because then the more you do it, the more people you have contact of. So it is kind of one of those rich get richer situations. The more people you know, the more contacts you just have. Yeah, coming out of school, using as many resources as you can. For example, if you wanted to come out and like, we can exchange information after this, that's fine, just ask. it all just depends on what you want to do. So if you specifically want to go into video, there are so many video companies in Nashville alone that just have their email on their website. Solotech, 4Wall, MooTV. There's 3 companies right there that you can just reach out to easily. You won't necessarily get a tour to start. A lot of people come out and they work in the shop for 6 months to a year and a half, 2 years maybe. They learn all the gear specifically that company has. And then as soon as there's an opening on the tour and you're like, oh, I know all the gear that you're taking out on that, they might just send you. Or if they're desperate, they might be like, you've been in the shop for 3 months, we can trust you, you're going out on tour. Timing and luck is also important in networking, unfortunately, and there's no really way to control that. But once you have a network or once you're around people, just kind of even telling them what you're interested in. How I got this director position was I just went to the head director at MooTV, and I just let it know, I'm like, hey, I kind of want to step up into the director role. I've done it for opening acts. I'd love to start like doing it for the headliners. When you get a chance, let's just go over some different switchers. That's all it took. He was like, absolutely, I love the initiative. We went over like 1 or 2 switchers, and then that's when the director for Alice Cooper left to go to a different tour. And they're like, hey, you're a guy that wants to be a director. Can you fly to Australia in 2 weeks and quit your current tour? And I was like, yeah, okay, sure. And it was just because I told them, I'm like, hey, I want to start moving up to the director position, that they even knew I was wanting to do that. They didn't know unless I told someone. So just be vocal about what you want, and it does stick with people more than you would think. So, I mean, as far as getting a contact, that's a bit harder. Just give it to, get in contact with anyone you can, and get ready for some of it to go absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
That's
One of my big things is like, brace yourself to bother people. Like, and that's fine. You're not going to be bothering them, but I think.
if you're texting them every other day, that's going to be bothering them,
Yeah,
and then they will never hire you.
But like, there's so much when I go, well, what do you do? Or, people ask me that it's an audio. Like, obviously there's a bridge between that, but it's, what have you done? And they go, well, I found this once. I was like, how many messages, like what you're saying, how many emails have you sent? How many people you try to connect with on LinkedIn? What are you doing? They're like, well, I don't want to bug them too much with like emails. Whereas your story is all the time. And an email's a good example of that, where it's like, it just sits there. And if they want to ignore you, they can just ignore you. They can just do it.
And yeah, if you've sent 3 months of emails, like once a month for 3 months, and they still haven't got back to you, it's probably a dead end. Don't keep going. I got a response like in month 1 or 2, and they said, hey, we just don't have any tours right now. Thanks for reaching out. We like your resume. We don't have anything right now. And I just went, cool, no problem. A month later, I'd go, I'm still available. Nothing's opened up yet. I'm just letting you know I'm still available. And I did that until they said, we have a tour. Are you still available? And I went, have you read my last fucking 6 emails? Yes, of course I'm available. Put me on. And then I moved countries. And, that was fun. Whoops. Now I don't have socialized healthcare, but that's a whole other thing. Yeah, so it is fine to reach out and link on LinkedIn. And I mean, especially if it's like roadies, we have so much downtime on the road that we're like, you can only play so much Candy Crush before you are doom scrolling on LinkedIn. And then you're like, message, human interaction, this is awesome. So yeah, fuck it, try it out,
This is good. Is there any others? Video, tools, life advice?
Working on Broadway, I did that. That's how we met.
What's the main lighting system that's used in most of the tours that you've been on?
What do you mean by system?
Like
Like the board?
X's and
Yeah, it's all DMX based.
okay.
Pretty much always. I use streaming ACN currently for connecting lighting and video. We use streaming ACN because we don't have time code on this tour at all. So to fire our video content, the same with lighting. The lighting guy has actually just programmed my video server into his lighting rig. And then it's all just connected through streaming ACN, which is just one Ethernet cable. So easy. And yeah, so it just goes from his front of house rack to his lighting rack on stage to control all his lights, and then I just jump off of that with one cable and learning IP and understand IP. We have to do IP for way more than you think. So that, don't be like, this is some nerd shit. Learn IP as fast as you can, because I was dealing with robo cameras yesterday. They were just not syncing up. And when I finally got them to sync up, there was a conflict with my record deck. And then that stopped working, and I was just like, what the fuck am I doing? And then I had to get someone smarter than me to tell me what I was doing wrong. But then it was just an IP issue. And if I knew more about subnet masks, I could have solved that faster and not got someone smarter than me involved.
See Jason squirming.
I am squirming so hard.
Is it because I'm right and you should learn IP-based stuff, or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a lot of. Please do it.
I'm an IT guy, so
Okay, yeah, definitely do that. It'll make your life and everyone around you, it'll make your lives so much easier. Especially touring, when you get into a festival and they have their own set of IPs, if you can just switch, like really quickly, just switch your stuff to not have a conflict with any of their things, it's beautiful. We had a show almost go down completely because someone plugged in a comms pack. A single comm pack almost shut down our entire show because it was the same, it was 192.168.1.112. And that's the exact same as my video server. And because for some reason they had a networked comm pack, we didn't have any issues loading in. During set change, they went, oh, someone wants to listen to the comms on this show. Here, we'll just plug this in for them. None of our video worked during the changeover. We had 30 minutes to figure that out of just why all of a sudden we were getting a conflict. And because someone under the stage wanted to listen to the show, that is why our entire show went down.
You said, I'm curious, you said you're running into spots without time code. We were just discussing this like 2 days ago.
I've never used timecode before. I
That's what I was going to ask, like, are you not running into time code at all?
So rarely. The only one I have run into is when I was on the K-pop tour. That entire thing was the first performer was Act 1, the second performer was Act 2, the headliner was Act 3. It was a play and a performance. It was dialed down to the second. Like everything about that
So
was.
like theater maybe would be
Yeah.
one where it's still really locked in. You think?
Yeah. EDM. Like it depends on the style of music. Country music, rock and roll.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing like some crazy big thing that is like specifically has some stuff, for the most part, it's gonna be manual.
Gotcha.
The amount of time the guitar players are like, I'm gonna add an extra 4 bars on this solo. That would screw your time code up immediately, and you're like, oh, well, the entire rest of the song is off. Yeah, the only time code I've done is on that K-pop tour that I filled in for. So 3 days of my, since 2019 touring career, that's the only time.
When we just like to kind of give you a context of what we do when they do live and video. You guys have all done like the lighting assignment. They go through a DMX's little box and then they have to program it all through Ableton and lock it to a song. Like, is that still as vital as it's all?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, cool.
It's just different genres of music prioritize that more than others.
Okay.
There's also very theatrical, like I'm pretty sure, what's her name? Carrie Underwood, I think, has some time-coded stuff. Jason Aldean had some time-coded stuff, but not with video.
Oh, okay.
So yes, it's still very important. It's just I haven't used it much. I haven't been involved in that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's all last year, or I guess it was 2 years ago. I had to go like, you have to do these things where you have to like try to get better at something, and I suck at Ableton. So I went to this Ableton seminar. This woman that was on tour, she did everything locked into an Ableton time code. So she had her lights going, her video, pyro, everything locked in.
Yeah.
And her session was monstrous.
Oh, yeah.
It gave me anxiety immediately. It
Yeah.
was incredible. It was super cool. But then I've also heard from other people that they're like, yeah, we don't touch it.
Yeah, depends what you're doing.
Makes sense.
EDM, electronic music, it's all time code.
Yeah.
A lot of K-pop, like a lot of pop stuff is all time code. Rock, country, it's not as important. You know, it's much more of a feel of what's going on stage. Like if you try and tell a country artist, you're like, all right, this is your cue for this song, is you're going to come take this solo and you're going to come over here, and the bass player is going to walk here, they're going to be like, no. We're going to be hammered by showtime. We're not going to remember this. Like, you know, like it's just not the way they do music. It's, you know, I wish I was joking, but.
No, I was like, yep. Facts.
Yeah.
You guys got any other questions? Yeah, I've been coming up all the time here. Should work on that one.
I have a flight to catch. Oh my gosh. That's still in a little bit though, so we're good.
Well, if you
Yeah.
have any questions, you can email them to me and I can forward any of them on at any point. Robert, thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been super good. I'm curious to send this out and see what other students think. Is it working class? We still got classes running right now, but
Yeah, I'll run into each of them and just scream advice into
Yes.
each classroom. Yeah, that'll be
video for
really.
life and then just leave.
Yeah, yeah. Oh God, I don't have the energy for that. I'd love to, but
Well,
cool.
Thank you, man.
Absolutely.
Screaming out